I mean, you see how that can happen.
Yeah. Couldn't handle the energy, and everything got amplified, and all of his stuff came up to the,
That's what happens.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it literally is a power spot in that way that activates whatever energy is there, and if it happens to be you're focused on the lower, that's what's going to manifest. I mean, it literally is a temple. I mean, Thomas Jefferson, who was one of the co-creators of the temple, called it a temple of sovereignty. It was called the Temple of Celestial Liberty when it was built. I mean, this is the mindset of the people that were creating this temple, and we have completely forgotten that. But the message is there that this literally is a temple of ascension. There's no doubt about that. And but even beyond that, it encodes this concept that beyond just earthly ascension, that what we're talking about is linking up with a group of beings who are so perhaps far beyond the average American's imagination, but yet if they learn about these beings, there's tremendous inspiration there, and people begin to ask, well, why not us? And the answer is, why not us? We can be part of that.
Oh, I agree 100%. Now, is there anything about 2012 written into, I know that 1776 was a critical number, and I remember there's a few people I've heard talk about that there's actually some kind of numbers or numerology tied into 2012. Are you familiar with that?
Well, there is. 1776, of course, is a very important number. That's one of the last countdown dates on the Mayan calendar. And it's actually encoded on the Great Seal of the United States, so that is an important part of it. But even more than that, even more directly perhaps, is the same artist who painted the Apotheosis of George Washington. His name was Constantino Brumidi. Also painted the frieze inside the dome of the U.S. Capitol. It literally wraps around the interior rim, and he actually has the Aztec sunstone painted in there as well. He shows Montezuma escorting Cortez into a solar temple and shows him the Aztec sunstone, which is, of course, the basis for the Mayan long count calendar. So there's lots of 2012 connections to be made there. I mean, you've got 1776 is the beginning of the last 13 Baktuns leading to 2012. Then you've actually got the Aztec sunstone in there, so it seems to be pointing to 2012 as an extremely important date in the capital symbolism.
Yeah, maybe we're all going to get the rainbow body. The whole planet maybe attains its rainbow body, and we got to hang on for the ride.
I mean, James, just think about it. I mean, millions of Americans see the dome of the U.S. Capitol on the news every night. It doesn't matter if you watch Fox or CNN or whatever. There it is. And hopefully the people that see that recognize that that's the dome of the U.S. Capitol, although it would be scary if Jay Leno did one of his jaywalking episodes in D.C. and asked people what that building was pointing to the Capitol. But the point is that most people don't have any awareness whatsoever about what is inside that dome. It's not part of our education or our upbringing, or for whatever reason it's just not on our radar. But just imagine, you start talking with kids about George Washington and throw out the cherry tree and just say, oh, wait a minute, in the dome of the U.S. Capitol, Washington is portrayed as having achieved the rainbow body. Well, what's that? And imagine if you start bringing kids up with some understanding of the potential for transformation that's latent within our bodies, and how that could then be translated into the social implications of that are absolutely profound to me. And that's what we're talking about here. That will be part of the shift, where it will just literally be almost like commonplace, really, that people will have an understanding that the rainbow body is achievable, and there will be people that are on that path, and people will be recognizing the importance of that and supporting that, and our culture will acknowledge that. Whereas right now, we just have total blindness concerning these kinds of concepts. Most people have no idea if there's, a billion Christians, and how many of those people know what it means, the reason why Jesus is portrayed sitting on a rainbow when he's portrayed in his resurrection scenes, and its linkage to other traditions, and what it means potentially in a cosmic sense.
You know, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of Christians, you might say, and I ask them, they start saying, you've got to live your life according to the Bible and everything else, and I start quoting everything that's in the Bible, and they haven't even read it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why is God totally opposite? The Old Testament God was a jealous, wrathful, vengeful person that gave land to one people, took away from another, and even ordered to have children's heads bashed out on rocks, in the land of milk and honey. And you read that and you go, wow, this is really messed up, And then you read the God of Jesus, who brought the new covenant, that says, God is all loving and all forgiving. And, he says, neither do I judge thee, nor does my Father judge thee. And so, he brings this whole new covenant, this whole image, but people are still running off the old image, the jealous, wrathful God you should fear and everything else. It's kind of crazy until you have the real knowledge of what really happened back then. And when you have the real knowledge, it all makes sense. And I always tell people, I said, well, why don't you just live your life according to Jesus and just forget about the wrathful God and all this other nonsense that happened in the past, with all these primitive people, because they didn't know what the hell they were doing, and they wrote things down the best they could understand them. But you can glean all these symbols like you found in sayings, and you can find out there where there has been interaction in the past with ETs, both good and not so good. And it's very clearly spelled out in there if you have the spiritual mind to see, or the knowledge, the pre-knowledge to know what they're talking about.
But the hope, it seems, of our time is that everyone will have access to understanding that if you want to travel between dimensions, become liquid light.
Yeah.
And this is what all the spiritual traditions have been talking about. And now we're going to get an opportunity here to really experience that.
Well, I love what you said about if you could teach the children about Washington attain the rainbow body and what the rainbow body is, and then talk about the Capitol, about how it's a temple of sovereignty, and what was the other one?
Temple of Celestial Liberty. Of
Celestial Liberty. And you say, this is what it's all about, and then to say, and look at what we have now. Right. Look at where it's gone. It's just a mind blower to me. It's like, I put myself in the mind of one of these extremely advanced beings coming down to this planet and go, what happened? We hung out with your forefathers. We set this all up for you. We gave you the basic foundation, to be a decent human being and to ascend, and find the God within you, and like all the masters and all these higher beings. And I can imagine them coming back here going, and you guys just sit around looking at a boob tube, guzzling beer, watching people inflict as much damage on each other over a dead animal skin.
Yeah.
And you don't care about anything else other than your condo and your SUV, having gas, and you're fine with it. And it just, everything has become a total paradox. If you look, our military, our defense department is really the offense department. And and you really look at everything that we've created has done a total 180 and become reverse of what it was created to be. And that's what you're showing, that the White House has actually become a total paradox and actually opposite of what it was created to be. And I think there are some wonderful people out there. I don't follow politics, but I think Ron Paul and Dennis Kucinich and some of these other guys are really doing all they can to wake people up, and there's some other ones in there as well. But I don't really follow politics, but kudos to them, because a very small percentage of them are starting to speak out and just tell it like it is. And